Imagine dedicating 15 years to a company, turning it from a small family operation into a Midwest titan. You balance the books, survive recessions, keep everything spotless. Then, a flashy new CEO struts in, props his sneakers on your desk, and declares you too old school for his vision. By the end of the day, you're replaced by 29-year-old TEDx darling. But what if you held a trump card to topple their entire scheme? Stay tuned, because this tale of betrayal, cunning, and ice-cold justice will leave you stunned. If you've ever been sidelined, underestimated, or disrespected by someone who thought they could steamroll you, this story is for you. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and buckle up for a masterclass in delivering justice. You won't want to miss a moment of this. Meet Rick Donnelly, a 62-year-old numbers man from Cincinnati with a gift for keeping things steady. For 15 years, he was the backbone of Meridian Manufacturing, a company he helped grow from 3 modest factories to a publicly traded giant with 18 plants across the Midwest. Rick didn't chase headlines or charm investors at swanky galas. His office was simple, his suits practical, his desk buried under spreadsheets that always balanced. Under his watch, Meridian's books were flawless. No missed filings, no scandals, just quiet competence that guided the company through 2 recessions and a brutal acquisition battle. His secret? A lesson from his father, who ran a hardware store in Covington, Kentucky. Numbers don't lie, even when people do. Rick's life wasn't all ledgers. He had Patricia, whose fiery spirit balanced his calm precision. They bought a house by the Ohio River, its steady flow soothing his overactive mind. But 3 years ago, cancer stole Patricia, leaving Rick with his routines and his numbers. He threw himself into Meridian, finding solace in the clean lines of a balanced ledger. For a decade, he worked alongside the company's founder, Harold E. Phillips, building something enduring. When Harold retired, the transition to CEO Diana Wright was seamless. She respected Rick's systems, even when they disagreed. Together, they kept Meridian growing. Steady, strong, reliable. Then everything shifted. The board craved fresh energy, and in swaggered Travis Mercer, a 36-year-old Harvard MBA with a Silicon Valley resume and a wardrobe of designer blazers and overpriced sneakers. Travis stormed through Meridian like a rock star, tossing around buzzwords like synergy and disruption. Rick felt the change instantly. Meetings grew flashier, filled with talk of realigning vision and shattering old constraints. Rick, with his buttoned-up demeanor and worn ledgers, stood out like a relic. He sensed trouble when Travis scheduled a one-on-one meeting 3 months into his tenure. The meeting hit like a sledgehammer. Travis leaned back in Rick's chair, feet propped on Rick's desk, and delivered the verdict. "The market's changing, Rick. We need someone who speaks modern finance." Rick's jaw clenched, but his voice stayed even. "I see." Travis announced Zachary Hughes, a 29-year-old financial innovator with a viral TEDx talk, as Rick's replacement. 2 weeks, Travis said with a smug grin. "We'll announce it at the next board meeting." Rick nodded, offered a firm handshake, and stayed silent. Inside, his chest burned, but he swallowed it. He didn't make scenes. That afternoon, while the company buzzed with an all-hands meeting about Travis's bold new direction, Rick packed 15 years into a single cardboard box. A photo of him and Patricia at their lake house. A commemorative coin from Meridian's IPO, the leather portfolio she'd given him, embossed with his initials. As he carried the box to the elevator, he saw Bethany, his loyal accounts manager, wiping tears from her eyes. "Don't worry," he told her, his voice steady but heavy. "It's just the cycle." What he didn't say was that for months he'd been tracking something rotten in Meridian's books, something tied to Travis and pointing straight to Zachary. The warning signs started early. In Travis's second week, he sidestepped procurement rules to hire a marketing consultant, his old classmate, at 4 times the standard rate. When Rick questioned it, Travis flashed a patronizing smile. "We're thinking bigger, Rick. Old rules don't apply." Then came restructured reporting lines, forcing Rick's team to funnel through a new chief innovation officer. Worse, Rick overheard Travis on a call, dismissing the company's accounting as outdated methodology needing creative solutions. The words sent a shiver down Rick's spine. He'd seen enough in his 62 years to know what creative meant in finance. Soon, the books showed cracks. Vendor contracts with unverifiable companies. Consultancy fees with no deliverables. Budget shifts without signatures. Kevin, a sharp internal auditor, flagged mismatched numbers in the new tech investment tracking. "Something's off," he whispered one evening in Rick's office. "Document everything," Rick said. "Keep it factual." Rick wasn't paranoid. He was meticulous. For 6 months he'd compiled evidence. Suspicious transactions, cross-referenced irregularities, a pattern growing clearer with every entry. It all pointed to a scheme, and Zachary Hughes was its linchpin. The final board meeting was a quiet humiliation. 22 minutes, no nod to Rick's 15 years, no plaque, no handshake, just a line on the agenda. CFO transition update. Travis raved about Zachary's revolutionary approach to capital allocation, while Rick sat at the table's far end, invisible. William Foster, a board member who'd known Rick since the early days, avoided his gaze. As the meeting ended, William offered a weak pat on the shoulder. "You've been an asset, Rick." The word stung like a blade. An asset. Like a machine past its prime. Back in his office, Zachary's office now, Rick watched through the glass as Travis pointed out Rick's charts like museum relics. Bethany handed him an envelope, a collection from the accounting team for a send-off dinner. Rick thanked her but knew he wouldn't use it. Instead, he asked, "When did those Vertex Solutions invoices start?" Her answer, February, right after. Travis's digital transformation announcement confirmed his hunch. That night, alone in his riverfront home, Rick spread his evidence across the dining table. 6 months of data. Fake vendors, inflated fees, and a holding company, Alpine Innovations, registered days before Travis's hiring. The pattern was clear. Travis and Zachary were siphoning funds, hiding it in complex digital transformation. Costs. They needed Rick gone because he saw too much. For the first time since Patricia's death, Rick felt something sharp and alive. Not anger, but a cold, focused resolve. He opened his laptop and began organizing. Timelines, account trails, every damning detail. He wouldn't storm a board meeting or leak to the press. That wasn't his way. He'd let the numbers speak, but he'd ensure the right people listened. Rick contacted William Foster, hoping the board veteran would hear him out. "Just some financial concerns for my final weeks," he said, keeping it vague. William's reply was guarded. "Travis said you might reach out, said you were struggling with the transition." Rick's stomach twisted. Travis had already framed him as a bitter has-been. "There are irregularities, William, serious ones." Silence, then a brush-off. "I have another call." The next morning, Meridian's legal team sent a carefully worded email about his confidentiality agreement. They were circling the wagons. Desperate, Rick met Kevin at a diner. Kevin looked paranoid, glancing over his shoulder. "They promoted. Me," he said. "But I report to Zachary now. New systems, new NDAs." When Rick pressed, Kevin admitted rumors were circulating. Rick had made errors, maybe even ethical lapses. "I can't get involved," Kevin said, bolting. "I have twins in college." Rick let him go, but the betrayal cut deep. They weren't just pushing him out. They were rewriting his legacy. Then Rick remembered something. An emergency admin account he'd set up in his final days, standard for system transitions. No one had disabled it. That night, he logged into Meridian's audit server, heart racing as he traced the money. Alpine Innovations was just the start, a web of shell companies, some predating Travis's arrival. Over $12 million had been siphoned through fake contracts and phantom fees. Worse, Travis's old startup tied to an investment group that had recently placed 3 members on Meridian's board, including William's nephew, Jacob. This wasn't a scam. It was a takeover. Rick worked through the night, downloading everything, his hands steady but his pulse racing. By dawn, he had a fortress of evidence. He sipped coffee on his porch, the Ohio River glinting in the sunrise. Patricia's voice echoed, "Make waves, Rick." He would, but surgically. He gave himself 3 days. First, he secured his evidence with dead man switches, if he didn't check. In every 48 hours it would go to the SEC, DOJ, and trusted journalists. Then he drafted cautious emails to 3 board members he believed were clean: Elaine Morrison, David Patel, and Anthony Wilson. No accusations, just enough data to spark questions. He scheduled them to send in 2 days. Next, he met Bethany for coffee. "They're gutting your department," she said, voice trembling. "Half the team's reassigned or under review." Rick slid her an envelope. "This is a formal letter detailing concerns you're obligated to report. It protects you as a whistleblower." Bethany's hands shook, but she nodded. "Tomorrow morning," she said. Rick notarized an affidavit and left instructions with his lawyer. Then Kevin texted, "Z asking about old audit protocols. Seems nervous." The net was tightening. 2 days later, it all detonated. Bethany's complaint hit Zachary's desk as Rick's emails reached the board. Elaine called an emergency meeting. By noon, outside auditors swarmed the office. Travis looked pale. Rick notarized an affidavit and left instructions with his lawyer. Then Kevin texted, "Z asking about old audit protocols. Seems nervous." The net was tightening. 2 days later, it all detonated. Bethany's complaint hit Zachary's desk as Rick's emails reached the board. Elaine called an emergency meeting. By noon, outside auditors swarmed the office. Travis looked pale, Zachary was escorted to a conference room, and the board was in chaos. That evening, Meridian announced an investigation. Travis, Zachary, and their allies were suspended. Rick walked along the river, the Cincinnati skyline glowing. His shoulders eased for the first time in months. The next morning, William, Travis, and Jacob called. He ignored them. Anthony Wilson, the oldest board member, got through. 15 years of clean books, he said. "I should have spoken up." He asked Rick to return temporarily. "I'll help with the investigation," Rick said. "But I'm done." 3 months later, he sat on his new deck in Asheville, North Carolina, the Blue Ridge Mountains stretching before him. The investigation exposed Travis and Zachary's scheme, leading to federal charges. Meridian settled with reforms, sparing employees. Bethany earned a promotion. Rick took a consulting gig with a local nonprofit. Some call it old school, he thought, tracing Patricia's photo in her leather portfolio. I call it integrity. That felt satisfying. Hold on. The fallout gets even sweeter. Travis and Zachary thought they could outsmart a man who lived by the numbers. They were dead wrong. The boardroom was a war zone. Elaine Morrison, steely and unrelenting, demanded answers as Travis faltered, his designer blazer looking like a cheap costume. Zachary, the wunderkind, sat frozen, his TEDx charm vanished as auditors tore through his doctored reports. Bethany's complaint and Rick's emails landed like precision missiles, exposing every lie. Travis's face drained of color when the board voted to suspend him. Zachary's hands trembled as security escorted him out. Rick wasn't there to witness it, but he could picture the silence, their arrogance crumbling under the weight of truth. For the first time in months, he felt light, as if the river had washed his burden away. Karma has a way of balancing the scales. Rick didn't need to shout or make a scene. He let the truth do the work. Sometimes justice isn't loud. It's meticulous, relentless, and deeply satisfying. Could you stay that calm under pressure? Let us know in the comments. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? Subscribe for more tales of justice served cold, and hit the bell to never miss an upload. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.